Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand. Fear's not allowed where dreams can be lost or found.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I'm Rosemary Lachance, a Reiki energy healer and spiritual advisor, and we are dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. We hope you can find the answers you are looking for. We encourage you to embrace the show with an open mind and continue to ask questions that will lead you to better health and greater understanding in your own life. We will give you our contact information at the end of the show. Enjoy the show. And tonight is our 95th show, and it's titled Food for Thought Answers to Questions About Life. We're doing something a little different tonight. This is kind of like a spiritual show. We're giving you answers. We plan to do more of these kinds of shows in the future. We're going to give you food for thought answers to questions about life that you have asked us through the years. So I have been asked so many questions as to the meaning of life and why do seemingly bad things happen to good people, and in general, why do things happen as they do? In tonight's show, I will try to answer some of these questions from a spiritual viewpoint because we are, after all, spiritual beings having a human experience. And the worldly answers do not seem to satisfy anymore. Let me define two words. World is a word used to describe the thoughts, words, and deeds of humans living here. The earth is a word to describe this magnificent planet with all of its animals, creatures, plants, and mineral kingdoms. So these are the food for thought answers, so please take what resonates for you and leave the rest. Please feel free to call, email, or write to the show or to me personally to add your questions to our list for future shows. I hope you enjoy the show. And tonight, I'm going to give you my bio, so you know a little bit about me after all these years, right? Since the age of 3, I began seeing spirits and communicating with animals. I knew there was much more to learn than what religion told me. Having been raised in the Catholic religion, I found that I had so many answers, so many questions about the meaning of life and death that they could not answer me. So in 1975, I set out to find the true meaning of life. Studying and searching for 7 years, I was spiritually led to Universal Spirit, the Word, where I found the answers to all of my unanswered questions about life and earthly death. I am spiritual, but I do not follow any organized religion, and I believe people should feel free to worship as they please. I also teach meditation classes and spirituality classes and do private spiritual counseling and lectures. In 1994, I studied Reiki and received my degrees. Since then, I have practiced Reiki and now opened my own private practice. I've studied under shamanic therapist, healer, and animal communicator Nancy LaPierre, and under Whitehorse, a shamanic healer, medium, and animal communicator. An avid lover of animals, I also do Reiki at the homes of private individuals for their pets and at various animal shelters. Okay, now let's get to the questions. The first question that was asked: what is the purpose and the reason for my earthly life? Well, we are here to remember who we are. Divine, perfect beings. Earth is like a big group therapy, and we're all put here together to learn from one another. One of the main things that you have to believe in before you can have any spiritual experience is reincarnation, because that answers so many questions. What started me on my path was that I said to myself, everybody tells me that God, creator, whatever you want to call divine being, is fair. That there's only one life and everyone has the same chance in life, the same opportunities. And I thought, no, that can't be, because one person is born fine, nice looking, has a good life, has good parents, grows up, goes to school, has enough money, gets married, has a nice life. Someone else is born blind or deaf or retarded or crippled. Someone is born poor with never enough money to do anything, living in a house with so many people that there's hardly enough room for everyone. And I thought, and someone dies young, and someone lives to be 100, and baby dies. Just a little newborn baby, just 3, 4 months old. And that's all they were here, and that was the end. It didn't make sense to me. It did not make sense to me. So I started my journey. And as I said in my bio, I finally found the answers I was looking for. And when I studied and learned about reincarnation, that really opened the doors for me. Because then I thought, okay, now it is fair. Because everyone has the same chances over and over. So why does a baby only live a few months? Because that's all they had to come here and learn in this incarnation. Why is somebody coming here who's blind? Because they're working out whatever karma they had from past lives. Supposedly, they made someone else become blind. Or they had no tolerance for people who were blind. Or why somebody is very, very, very heavy, and no matter what they do, they can't lose weight. Well, maybe in a past life they made fun of people who were heavy, and they couldn't understand that it was not a good thing. So what did they do? They decided, they said, okay, because I can't understand this, I will take an incarnation where I will be heavy, and so I will know what it means and what it feels like. And it's a very brave thing to do. When you've done things in the past life that are not very good, and you come here to work it out, you're a very brave individual. Because there are people still that don't want to work it out. So if your life is bumpy, and if there's a lot of problems, and you have any one of these things that I told you about, consider yourself very brave, because you've come here to work it out. Even if someone has been killed in this lifetime, they may have done that to someone else, so they're here to work it out. You know that saying that we say in this world, whatever goes around comes around? That's what it really means. Whatever you put out comes back to you, whether it's this lifetime or the next lifetime or the past lifetime. And someone who seems like nothing ever really happens to them when they're in this life, though they do these terrible things, it will happen. If it's not in this life, it'll be in the next life or on the other side of life. Things over there too, there's different levels that people go to learn. So no deed ever goes unpunished or unnoticed or uncared for or anything. Everything balances out in the end, and everyone is going back at the end. Everyone's going back home when the time comes, which is right for them. And then when that time comes, we won't need an Earth anymore, because we won't need this big group therapy planet here. And that's going to be a long time from now, though. Okay? So the next question was, what is the law of cause and effect? Well, there's another thing, too, that happens that's kind of an instant thing. Like something happens to someone carelessly, someone goes and gets drunk. And they get in the car, and they drive, and they cause an accident. Okay? Where they may have hurt someone very badly, or even kill them, or hurt themselves, or cripple themselves for life. That's cause and effect. They were doing something they shouldn't have done, drinking and driving, very irresponsible, and they caused this problem to happen for this lifetime. And all they can do is work this out in this lifetime as best that they can. So, and it's like putting your finger in the flame. You're going to get burned. Those are cause and effect things. Not paying attention to what you're doing, knocking over a glass of water. That's cause and effect. It can be from little things to very big things. And also, sometimes when someone comes here to work out karma, remember that word karma has been given a bad name. Karma only means you come to work out what you choose to work out, not what someone else tells you you have to work out. You pick it yourself. You pick your parents. You choose what you're going to do in this lifetime. It's all you, okay? And there's no such thing as victim. No one is a victim. Everyone is here very bravely working out the things that they're supposed to work out, the things they want to learn so they can get back home. Because living here on this planet is wonderful if you have everything that you want. If life is good, especially when you're young and you have a nice body and you're free from all the problems that come along as you get older. So it's very nice. You have enough money. Maybe you were born to parents who have a lot of money, and life is good. But there's other people who don't have it that way. And things may come up in the future. So always be grateful every day to what you have. Okay, is there life after death? And if so, where do we go? Well, now that I've told you about reincarnation, you know that there's life after death. It goes on and on. There's people who have had afterlife experiences, after death experiences. People who have supposedly died on an operating table and saw a white light and went to visit relatives on the other side and came back. Now you've seen a lot and heard a lot about this these days. And there's even groups, there's a group here that we had on our show, a near-death experience group, or people who have had that happen to them. And they also define near-death experience as even having out-of-body experiences, where I've had that. Like for a minute, it seems like time stands still, and you're in another place, and then you come back. That's an out-of-body experience. There's all different kinds of things. So you know that there is life after. Life wouldn't make sense if there wasn't, because you work all your life. You do everything that we do in this country, we in this world. We go to school, we grow up, we get married, we have children, we buy the house, we buy the car, we buy the furniture, we buy this expensive jewelry, we buy all the things we want. And we live very comfortably. But when we pass over, we can't take any of that with us. So if that was all there was to life, it doesn't make any sense. What you take with you is all your experiences, all the love you have given to other people, and all the wonderful things you've done for other people, and all the love you have received, and all the things people have done for you, and all that you've learned, and how much you've grown. That you take with you. That you never, never lose. That stays with you forever. All your relatives, all your friends. That's what you take with you. None of the material things that this world has, that television and advertisements tell you must buy and you must have. Oh, they're nice. They're nice. Don't get me wrong. If you can afford these things, that's nice. But never forget to give back also. Taking all the time is not good for your soul. If you have more, give back a little bit more. Help whenever you can. Help the animals. Help the people who have less than you. Help people who really want help. Not the people who have their hands out all the time and don't want to help themselves. Help the people who want to help themselves. And the poor animals, speak out for them. They have no voice. And the children, they have no voice. This is how you can give back. Not giving to a cancer society or a muscular dystrophy society where they just take all this money and that most of it goes to just running the society and very little goes to the people who really need it. And it's an easy thing to do, to give to something like that. And then you can forget it. But no, get involved. Work in a soup kitchen. Work some places. Donate your time. All these wonderful things that you do, you take with you always. And you'd be surprised what you'll learn by doing this. Okay. Does God really exist, and is he a loving God? If God, our Creator, didn't exist, neither would we. He made us from part of him. That's why we are a part of him. These people say, why doesn't he stop the things that are happening? Why doesn't he stop the wars? Why doesn't he stop all the cruelty to animals? Why doesn't he make a difference and change people's life? There's a lot of suffering that goes on in this world. Why doesn't he interfere? Well, the answer is two words: free will. He gave us free will, and he won't take it back, because that's who he is. All right. I remember, to give you an example, my son. He decided at the age of 21 he wanted to live on his own and he wanted to move to another state. And I missed him really badly. And I wished he would move back. But he didn't. He moved to another state and then eventually passed on at an age of 36. But he asked me about free will, and he said, oh, what's that baloney, free will? What is that? God can do that. He can step in. He can jump in. He can change things. And I said, okay, let me give you an example. I said, I wanted you to come back home and live with me. So you won't do it on your own. Now, I could do two things. I could kidnap you. I can have you drugged, and I can have a lobotomy done on you, where you can't think for yourself anymore. So you have to live with me, and you'll always be with me. You'll stay with me. But this wasn't given to me by your own free will. I forced this on you. Or I could kidnap you and put you in a dungeon, in a cell that I created in my house in the cellar, and keep you locked up and come visit you, and you would be there. I would have you. But you would hate me for it. You didn't come back of your own free will. I forced this on you. That's what God does. He does not force anything on us. He does not change. And if he did step in, who would he help? Would he help this one? Would he help that one? How do you make that decision? No, he gave us free will, now and forever. Always. On this side of life, the other side of life, free will to do as we please. Why doesn't he stop suffering for the animals? That's one of my big pet peeves, because I absolutely adore animals. I'm an avid animal activist. But he wants us to learn to do this. Animals are our teachers. We think they're lower than us. Actually, they're higher than us. What they go through, and they still give us unconditional love. So we are learning from animals if we're aware. Is he a loving God? Yes. Of course he's a loving God. Where did we learn to love? How did we learn to love? Some religions teach that God was someone who punishes you. Teaches you that God created an eternal hell. Now, those of you out there who are parents, you love your children. No matter what they are, no matter what they did, even if they did commit a murder or did some terrible things, it's still your child. You don't stop loving them because of that. Would you say, okay, take my child away and put him in a place where they're going to burn up for the rest of their lives? Would you ever do that? No, you wouldn't do that. And God, who is so much greater than us and so much more loving and understanding than us, could he do that? Of course not. So that's not God. Then there's the Old Testament of the Bible that said God wanted animal sacrifices and burning sacrifices, and God wanted wars, and God sided on one side or the other who was to win the wars. Does that sound like a fair and decent, loving God? Think about it. No. No. The Bible is a history book written by people, by men, human beings, more than 300 years after Christ passed over. Their opinions of what things were like, from hearsay, passed down from person to person. So, if you look at the New Testament, all of a sudden God doesn't want those sacrifices anymore, doesn't want wars anymore, just wants love. How could he change like that? How could he change him? You believe in him. A lot common sense. Think about that. It's just common sense answers. God is God, the loving being, always and forever, the way he was, the way he is, the way he'll always be. And the only thing you can do is trust and believe. God doesn't take your child from you. God doesn't make you poor. God doesn't make you crippled. These are all the things that we've chosen to do, to learn. How could anyone do that to someone else? Oh, I know there's people out there who kill other people and commit these heinous acts and everything, but all you can do is really feel sorry for them, because someday they have to make that up. They really have to make that up. Somewhere in time they will have to. Okay, they ask, what is the real meaning of free will? Well, I've already explained that. And is there a hell, and where is it? Well, I've already touched on that, about hell. Hell is man-made thoughts. Perhaps you saw the movie What Dreams May Come. And when Robin Williams went to search for his wife, he went to a hellish place. Descriptive hell, burning, suffering, pain. But what that was really people's thoughts. People believed that there's a place like that. We are co-creators with God. We can create whatever we want in our lifetimes and on the other side. And if we believe in a hell and we think that we're bad and we deserve to be there, that's where we'll spend time for a while until we wake up. And then we'll get help. And then we'll change, and then we'll start on our path. There's a wonderful book to read that could teach you all this. It's called A Wanderer in the Spirit Lands. And you have to order it from Amazon. I don't think it's available at Barnes & Noble. It's a wealth of information as to what happens after you pass on to different people. Why do babies and children die? Well, sometimes a soul only has to come in here for a short period of time to make up for something that he did. Sometimes the soul comes here and dies very young, 6 months, 8 months, a year old, for the parents' sake, because the parents had something they had to learn from this experience. It's very sad indeed, but it's all a learning experience. There's no coincidences in life. Everything happens for a reason. And I know the sorrow is great, but if you can look at things like that and know that no one dies and is gone forever, that you will see them again, that you will be together again, if you would just believe. And if you don't believe my words, get some books and study. Read. There's so many books out there, so many different people about this. I feel sorry for atheists, and I feel sorry for people who believe that this is all there is. If this was all there was, it's not enough for me. It's really not enough. You think so when you're young, but as you're growing older and things start happening to you, you realize that it's not enough for you. So get out there and get those books and read and learn and help yourself. You make your own happiness. You make your own sorrows. The way you look at things, the way you deal with things. Find someone who is dealing with these things. A children's hospital, children who have cancer and are terminal, or they get very sick from all the treatment that they have to take. Look at how brave they are. What they're going through. Look at how brave the children are, how accepting they are. That's why it breaks our heart so much, because they are. They don't say, I don't want this, I don't want this. They accept everything. Look at the animals. Look at all these animals lately that we've realized because of Michael Vick who brought this to our attention, even though it was terrible, terrible things he did, it was also a great lesson to be learned here. That we would have never realized what goes on with this dog fighting if it wasn't for him and that he was a celebrity. Because people pay attention to what celebrities do. And that brought to light the fact of all these horrible things that happened to the animals. And what happened to these animals that were able to be rescued? So many of them were rehabilitated and became people's pets. People stepped up. Wonderful people stepped up and worked with them and helped them. And wonderful people stepped up and adopted them. And what do those dogs do? Like the little children in the cancer hospital. After they were shown the love, these animals were very loving. Pit bulls are very loving. By nature, that's why they can get them to fight and do what they do. They'll do anything to please their masters. They got a very bad rap because people raise them to do that, take advantage of the most loving dogs. But they turn the other cheek, animals. You know yourself when you yell at your dog, your pet, your cat. You yell them and you stamp your feet and you chase them away and you scare them and even swat them. And then later you go and you call them and you say, I'm sorry, come back. And they do. They come back and they lick you and they trust and they care. Take lessons from that. The children and the animals, take lessons from them. Okay, why do the good die young and the seemingly bad live long lives? Well, sometimes living a long life, if you're not happy and you're not healthy, is not a very good thing. We always think of death as a terrible thing, but it's not a terrible thing. It's just a passing over to another form of life. That's all it is. We think this is the best place to be, but really it isn't. It's hard to live here. It's hard to live life, especially in these times, the way they are now, the way the world is becoming. We elect people to office, but we don't even know much about them. We say, oh, they're religious. But religious is different from spiritual. And that's my next question, and I will go into that. So, whether you live a short life or you live a long life, it doesn't matter. It's the quality of the life that you lived. It's all those things I told you about before. If a person, what is that saying, that only the good die young? Well, it's true in a way. A lot of good people have passed on young because, in essence, they've worked out what they were supposed to work out. Or their time was to leave to teach someone else. I know when my son passed, I learned a lot, an awful lot about myself because I stopped in my sorrow and my anguish. I changed my life. I started paying more attention. And that's what happens when we lose someone that we love very much. Some of us don't want to live, but that's silly. Because if you want to go when you pass over, you want to be with them, then you want to live the best life you can live. So when you get there, you can go to a higher level. There's different planes on the other side, different levels that we go to when we pass over. Depending, it's, you know that saying, like attracts like? That happens in lifetime when you attract someone to you. If you're a healthy person, you attract another healthy person to you. If you're not so healthy, and I mean in mind, you attract someone that's not so healthy. The same way when you pass over, you go to a place where people are like you. So, be careful what you wish for. Okay, organized religion versus spirituality. As I said before, when we elect officials to office from city, local government, state government, governments in the United States, governments overseas, in the different countries. We don't really know enough about these people. They're just people like you and I. They don't know any more than we do. They probably have a lot more money than we do, so they can afford to campaign to become in their offices, okay, who they are. But if you want someone to do a good job for you, you really ought to find out if he's spiritual or just religious. Religion is a man-made organized business. You know, all the different religions that people believe and people follow, they all have a bit of the truth. They really do. They all teach some truth, but they don't pull it all together for one big truth, like the reincarnation, and like you're not a victim and taking responsibility for yourself. Okay? Church is a word that we use to define as big buildings where people gather on religious holidays or Sundays, pay their dues, and listen to someone talk. Now, church really is just wherever people gather. You know that saying, where two or three gather in my name? You and I could have church. I could have church here with another person. I could have church just by talking with you on the air. Church is where people come together for spiritual reasons, to pray together, for people who are ill, for people who are unenlightened, for those less fortunate than us. We pray for world peace. A spiritual person who understands animals have rights too, and they need our help, that children need our help. These people in office, they're good people, but they really don't know any more than we do about running things. And if they're not spiritual people, they don't look at things from a spiritual viewpoint. So religion and spirituality are two different things. Spiritual people are the people who are kind and loving, the people who really do things to help other people, the people who help animals, the people who help children, the people who help people less fortunate, the giving, kind, sharing, loving people who understand and really want to solve the world's problems. Not people who want to live without wanting for money. People who are set for the rest of their lives. People who really care about each other. That's the kind of people you want, and that's the kind of people you want to put in office. You want people to run things because we don't have the time to do it? Then those are the kind of people you have to really look for. You can't blame these people if they don't do a good job, because they didn't know any better. Or they did and didn't do anything about it. But you put them in office because you didn't know any better, and you didn't take the time to learn about them. So you can't blame them and call them all kinds of bad names. We're all in this together. So that's what religion is. And that's what spirituality is. A spiritual person studies, betters himself, learns more and more, keeps an open mind, helps whenever he can. A kind person. You must have run into people like this. People who are generally kind. People who you feel good to be around. Think about it. Have you run into people like this? I know you have. We all have. That's the difference between spirituality and religion. It doesn't mean that if you don't go to church it's a sin, or that if you go to a different church it's a sin. It doesn't mean that at all. Alright, who are the real victims? The only real victims on this planet are animals. Because animals have no karma. Animals feel pain, they feel sorrow, they suffer. What we do to them on factory farms is horrendous. Just horrendous. And we don't want to see that. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to hear about it. We just want to eat them. And if someone brings it up, they go, oh, 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 that's terrible. How can you say that? How can you do that? But it doesn't mean that it's not happening all the time. People who are hard-hearted, who can do these things, who can kill these animals from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, every single day of the week, every year, in and out, animals are slaughtered for food. Animals are slaughtered for fur. Ducks have pipes forced down their throat and food forced into their bodies to fatten their liver so you could have foie gras, is that what they call it, which is just duck liver? In some foreign countries, they kill dogs and cats for food, and they don't do it very humanely. Animals are victims. I could go on and on about that, but I won't. But they're the real victims. People are not. Even children are not. Because they come into this world with their karma, with what they want to learn to do. And you know, when the illnesses strike the children when they're young, it's really a good thing because a child can cope so much better than an adult. And all you do as a parent, which I know that you parents love your children, and I know that you do, just comfort them and be there for them. Don't let them see you cry. Encourage them and be happy for them, knowing they're working these things out, they're learning, and they chose you as a parent to learn it with. And if you lose your child, cheer them on and realize that they chose you again to have the life that they did have, to learn what they did learn, and that they're teaching you too. They've taught you a lot. Think back about what you've learned. And your sorrow, if it goes on too long, it holds them back from moving on when they pass over, because they are allowed to see you and visit you and be with you. There's another great movie that you might want to watch. It hasn't been released yet, but you can get it on Amazon. It's called Astral City. And it's Brazilian with English subtitles. But it's a wonderful movie. And then it shows you what happens when you pass over. It's another one that's an excellent movie. Astral City. You should really buy that. They say you can rent it on demand too, so maybe you can do that and watch that movie. There's a wealth of information out there for you to learn everything. Just make that extra effort. But you know, the world is very busy today. They make sure that they keep us busy. I heard a saying once, it said, what did the president say to the Pope? You keep them ignorant and I'll keep them busy. People don't have time for anything anymore. People don't visit like they should. People don't sit around the supper table at night and talk with their family while they're having supper. Children have to take all kinds of lessons and come home at all different times. When my children were growing up, 6 o'clock, they had to be home at that table. And we'd have our discussions. What was your day like today? Tell me what it was like. What did you go through? What's bothering you? Anything? And we would talk. And we would laugh and we would joke. And it was just the best times. Always the best times. There needs to be more of that in this world. Stop the busyness. Keeping up with your neighbors and everything. You don't need to do that. Like I said, you're not going to take it with you. So, victims. Only the animals. No one else is a victim. And people who feel that they're victims. People who get hurt in accidents. People who get robbed. People who these terrible things happen to and they feel like victims. That's going to hold you back. You're never going to go on and learn and grow and get better because you're always going to blame someone else for what happened to you. They may have perpetrated the act against you, but it was what you asked for. because you wanted to learn. You started out to be so very brave. But then when you say you're a victim, no matter what was done to you, you're not a victim. If you could just really realize this, we could learn and grow so much faster. Do animals have souls? Yes. That was a question that was asked me. Yes, they have souls. They're created by God. They're our little brothers and sisters. I call them our furry brothers and sisters. The comfort they bring us, the joy, the peace, petting them, holding them, the funny little things that they do, our pets. And even the big animals. If you go on Facebook, and you get some people to friend you that are animal rights activists, they have such wonderful videos about animals, rescued animals who play together. Cows and sheep and pigs. Pigs are very intelligent. There's nothing that God created that doesn't go back home to Him. Even plants, they have what they call part souls, and they go back as a collective and become something bigger. Like some weeds and some small flowers could go back and then become a tree. Trees are wonderful. They have great souls. But animals have souls. You must have heard about animals who come and visit after they passed over. They visit their owners. People have said they've seen them. I've seen animals in spirit. So yes, they have souls. You can only see them because they do have souls. I don't know whoever started that rumor that they did. Maybe because it makes it easier for the people to do what they do to animals and use them as commodities to make money. Maybe it helps them to be able to do it without feeling any guilt. That's between them and God. But they do have souls. And plants and minerals, I ask, can they have a soul too? Yes, they can have a soul. Even the little fly, the little bugs, they have souls, little tiny part souls. They're a collective. Do they have feelings? Yes. People, they tell you, and I'm sure some people do, who love plants. They talk to their plants. They've had experiments where they've talked to the plants, they've touched them, and they've grown bigger and better than the plants that weren't talked to. Just like animals and just like children. We all need that love. And we human beings, we are capable of such love. We have so much to give. If we stop worrying about ourselves so much, being self-centered and selfish, me, my, I. If we just let go and trust, if we believe and trust, you've got nothing to lose to do that. What is there here to hold on to? The money? Money comes, money goes. And the way the world is today, it may go sooner. So we really are here to wake up and realize who we really are. Everyone, perfect, beautiful, divine. That's how our Father sees us. Always. No matter what we do, we're forgiven immediately. As we should forgive. That's another thing that holds you back, not forgiving. Because when you don't forgive someone, then you take that person with you wherever you go. You're not free of them. You bind yourself to that person if you don't forgive what they did and realize that there was a reason, and the reason was always for your spiritual growth. Everything in life happens for a reason, no coincidences. The reasons are for our spiritual growth. Everything, no matter what it is. If you could believe that, and you could let go of grudges, blame, forgive. And if you don't forgive, not only will you be bound to them in this life, when you pass over, you'll be bound to them on the other side. And if you have another incarnation, you'll be bound to them there until you two work it out. It's a law of the universe. How to pray and the power of healing, the power of prayer. Praying isn't like, take the Lord's Prayer, for instance. I've heard it recited in churches. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. That's not a prayer. A prayer comes from the heart. A prayer is like, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed is thy name. Our kingdom come. Thy will is done on earth as it is in heaven. You give us each day our daily bread. That's how a prayer is. Heartfelt, not like reciting in a class. And prayer doesn't have to be rehearsed words or memorized words. A prayer can be anything. You can pray in your car. When you're driving to work or when you're going somewhere, you can pray in your bed at night. You can pray in the morning. And you can talk to God or your angels, your guardian. Everyone has angels, guides, teachers, and animals around them all the time. And you can talk to them and ask for help. And say, I don't know how to solve this problem. All I know is I really want to solve it. Can you help me? Will you help me? I know you'll help me. Please help me to solve this problem. All you have to do is ask. They won't force anything on you. You have to ask. And then be silent, be still, wait. Wait. Sometimes the answer is no. But if you ask before you do anything, if you ask from your heart, if you really want to make these changes, you'll get your answers. You can get an answer. You can get in the car in the morning, turn the radio on. The first song that comes on, there's an answer. You could be watching television and somebody will say something on a show and, oh my God, that sounds like an answer to the question I asked. You just never know. We did a show on synchronicities, signs, numbers, messages, where certain numbers, sequence of numbers means certain things. Seeing an animal, certain wild animal means something. Get the books. Read. It tells you. You get your answers. That's what prayer is. And praying for someone else is always a wonderful thing. For what you put out comes back to you. And group prayer is wonderful. Like I said, you can make your own little church. You can get your own group together. And try to learn to meditate. Meditation quiets the mind. Our minds are too busy. People who can't sleep at night, you know why they can't sleep? I know it happens to me. You wake up and you start thinking, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? I'm going to do this. How am I going to solve this problem? Blah, blah, blah. And then you won't get back to sleep. So if you learn to meditate and get quiet in your mind, it's going to help you to hear those answers. They're always trying to communicate with us. Our angels and guides and teachers and special animals that surround us and protect us, even our loved ones. They try to reach us, but we're too busy. They get a busy signal. Remember the old phones when you used to call, you get beep, 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 beep. Busy signal all the time. That's because the mind is constantly going, constantly going. What do? We run. People run, and they have earphones in their ears. Thank God they don't get hit by cars or anything because you can't hear anything, for one thing. But the other thing is, you're not looking around and noticing what's going on around you. One of the things that really bothers me is people go to the beach and they take radios and blast this music coming on their radios. They don't listen to the sound of the ocean, the waves, the sound of the seagulls, the sound of children's laughter when they're playing in the sand. They don't reflect on what's going on around them. They keep their minds busy constantly. How are you going to get any answers with a busy mind like that? You're not going to. So learn to meditate. It's wonderful. It really helps to relax you, helps you to think, helps you to focus, and a quiet mind gets answers. And can I be healed? I have many people come to me for energy healing, and to go to many people. Alternative healing, acupuncture, everything like that. Acupuncture, chiropractic, and there's all kinds of energy healing. When illness strikes, is because of something in your mind, something, negative thoughts, feelings, words, deeds that are going on inside of you that causes the illness, that causes the pain, that causes the ache, that causes whatever, that causes the cancer. Okay? And it's a wake-up call. That's what it is. It's a wake-up call saying, hey, we're not thinking right. We're not acting right. Anger. Anger at someone. That's so bad for your body. That causes illness. Not forgiving. That eats away at the body. Causes illness. There's many things that cause illness, but it all comes from that. Everything. You can be healed if you believe. If you believe you can be healed. If you let go of all that negativity. If you sit down, you focus, and you say to, suppose you have cancer. You say to the cancer, and don't call it your cancer. Never own a disease. Never say, my cancer, my heart condition, my diabetes. You own it. It belongs to you. Say the cancer, the diabetes, the heart condition. You don't own it. It doesn't belong to you. You don't want any part of it. But it's there to teach you a lesson. So you can actually talk to it. Consider it like an entity and say, okay, you're here. What are you trying to teach me? What are you trying to tell me? And you'll get your answers if you open that mind and quiet that mind. You can run to doctors. You can go for chemo and radiation. You can do for all these horrible cures that make you so sick. You can do that. Or you can do the alternative way. Bernie Siegel wrote a book, and they made a movie out of it, and it was shown on television about a lady who had breast cancer and metastasized in her body. And she went for chemo and radiation over and over again until she was like so burned, and they said to her, there's nothing more we can do for you. You've got about 3 more months to live, and that's it. She wanted to live. She never had children or anything. So when she dragged herself up and she went to see him. She finally decided after all that to go to an alternative practitioner. She went to see him, and he advised her to go to a therapist to find out what was eating at her that was causing this cancer. He advised her to eat a macrobiotic organic diet. He advised her to take different natural medicines, Chinese herbs, homeopathic medicines. And he advised her that any friends of hers who didn't believe in what she was doing or gave her a hard time or didn't understand it, told her she was crazy, any negative thinkers about this, to part friends with them because they were going to hold her back. And she did it all. She did everything that he said. And the biggest help was her therapy. And she found out through this psychotherapy, spiritual therapy, that she had a big problem with her mother. Her mother had passed on. And something that was in her childhood with her mother, she carried with her all her life. And it ate and ate and ate away with her, in her. And so one night, her therapist told her, you have to talk to your mother. You have to pretend that she's there and speak to her like she's there. It's called psychodrama. And to get it all off your chest. Well, she went a step further. She went to the cemetery and she sat by her mother's grave. And she stayed there all night, and she told her everything she always wanted to tell her when her mother was alive, but never could. This is a true story. You can find it if you look him up. And the next day she felt so free, so totally free. And guess what? Right. Cancer was gone. Cancer got smaller and smaller and smaller and disappeared. She was totally free, and she went on to have children and live a wonderful life. So it can be done. He had another client who had cancer, and she decided she was going to live her life the way she always wanted to live it. If she only had 6 months to live, she was going to do it. She went on vacation. She lived her life. She had a good time. She enjoyed herself. She did everything she wanted to do. She went back to the doctor for their last time. Guess what? It was gone. Well, I hope that I've answered, to the best of my knowledge from my studies through all these years, your questions for you. Please feel free to contact me with any other questions you might have. The quote for tonight is taken from Health Ranger, and I love this quote. It reads, "I give thanks to intelligent, informed people, even though we live in a world of zombie people who forgot how to think for themselves. I'm always impressed by the amazing number of truly intelligent, thoughtful individuals that I do meet, people who are natural-born skeptics, and who intelligently question everything going on around them in order to arrive at the deeper truths of our world. Kudos to all of you, as I believe you are the individuals who represent the future of human civilization." That's a beautiful quote. I love that quote. Anyway, I'm going to say goodnight now. I hope you enjoyed this show. And let us know if you want more like this. Okay? Thank you for joining me. Good night.
As you look out through the window to the world you have made, always know you are the vision. See the truth, darkness fades.